Good afternoon. I'm Joe Newmeyer, film critic for New York 710 AM WOR Radio, and welcome to the Q&A for The Crew of Tribes, which won Best Short Film Script at the Page International Screenwriting Festival, Best Short Film at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival, and got the most views at the LA Shorts Fest, where it also won Best Comedy. It also got Best in Fest and Best Short Film at Canada's Yes, Let's Make a Movie Festival. Joining us today is director Nino Aldi, writer Andy Marlett, executive producer and co-editor Jordan Taylor Wright, and producers Patricia Chica, Will Meldman, and Heon Green. Thanks all of you for being here. Congratulations on the film. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us,
you.
Joe.
You're so welcome. It was it is a terrific short film that does so much in 10 short minutes. You get a sense of New York. You get it's a thoughtful film. It's smart and it's very, very funny. And I've got to say every time I've watched it 6 or 7 times now. I am consistently entertained and amazed by how deft and adroit it is in so many ways. Nino, let's talk about bringing Andy's script to it, and Andy, let's talk about the origin of it. What was the idea originally for the short?
I grew up in Georgia. I don't live there now, but I have a lot of friends and family there, and people I talk with regularly. But there's also people I'm kind of cut off from now. It's been happening for a long time, and with social media, it's just kind of gone parabolic. But I know enough now when I try to talk to family or whatever that you can't scream at people to make them see what you see. So I wanted to write something that wasn't preachy, I guess, that doesn't say, you know, you're wrong and I'm right. And I'd like to think, I mean, I know viewers will have their own take on it, but I like to think Tribes isn't saying that this is how you should behave. It's saying this is where we all are. And the place, you know, okay, admittedly, it might seem like hell at the moment, but at least we're agreeing on where we are, and that's a start. And so that's why I wanted to take that approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks so much with comedy. It's a you know, going all the way back to the Marx Brothers. It is you can say a lot more if you kind of get people smiling, laughing, feeling good about things, and letting them examine themselves and the world around them through a slightly lighter lens. Andy, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen all in the past week, in the past 4 years or many years, you know, that tribalism is pretty real and quite dangerous. So, and I understand that maybe some people will think that comedy lacks like the gravitas that this subject deserves, but I don't think so, because I think Tribes points out that division is a self-inflicted wound, and I do it with comedy because if you show someone preaching, right, you might turn people off, but if you show them slipping on their own metaphorical banana peel, they'll pay attention.
Yeah, that's a beautiful phrase. That is true. That their own metaphorical banana peel. Nino, let's talk about bringing that banana peel to the film, because there's a sense of it. It starts off with a sense of tension. We're sort of kind of getting on that train, obviously, with everybody else, and as we're suddenly behind one of the thieves. Let's kind of talk about the pace of it and how you wanted to make sure it felt realistic as the tone sort of shifted, because it does a great job of kind of keeping a foot in all those different squares.
Well, you know, honestly, when I had read the script, I thought it was a thriller, and I think ultimately at the core, when I found out that it had more, you know, comedic undertones, I actually loved it, because I felt like if you can take the lightness and put it in a realistic tone that actually is really understandable, you can sort of divulge, you know, artistically what's going on. So again, you start with your low angles, you bring in people in the train, who's important, this guy, that guy, and this guy, and bad things are afoot here, right? And then you can kind of keep them in space with the objective of, you know, trying to unite against a common goal. And honestly, it's like the greatest thing for me as a filmmaker is the things that I gravitate to is something that has a meaning. And I like the idea of literally, you know, the thing that's stopping them from robbing the train isn't other passengers or the cop, it's themselves. It's an ideology. Yeah. So when you get into that, you can sort of play around with that. And that's literally kind of what drove me to it. So, you know, but keeping tonally to what's really at heart, because it is an important film. And ultimately that's what we were trying to create. So.
Yeah, and it has, and the main cast is terrific, and I'll name them all right now, but they are all terrific. Adam Wahid, Daystorm Power, and Jake Hunter, but including all of the supporting cast as well. Everybody sort of feels as if they are part of that tapestry. It's a New York tapestry. Anyone who's lived there or been there knows about it. But it also is there's a collective sense of all of them kind of going through this together. It's like a comedic taking of Pelham 1-3, but there's a lot going on there, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, 100%. And I think too, with the whole production team, I mean, we shot this 2019. We weren't trying to be anything really because someone required us. We just were, we just were that way just because that's what it required. And that was, sort of what everything was about for the whole piece. So, and all of the passengers were literally a character for us because we needed them to be one, not just aesthetically for directing, because you need, Jordan, you need cutaways. Otherwise it's just too messy, right? So you need to have in one contained space, you need a lot of cutaways, and everyone needs to consistently be there from their own point of view. Because that in itself is a character. The idea that everyone can be so different yet somehow all the same is really important, and that's kind of what we went for.
Yeah, Jordan, let's talk about the editing, because it is so beautifully edited. It's got different sort of it brings us in, it takes us out in very fluid ways, and it's all within that constrained space, which obviously I know for editors there's lots of challenges to that, and yet there's also this sort of beautiful sense of possibility. Let's talk about kind of bringing it in and kind of making the film kind of as dynamic as it is, because it's really terrifically vibrant.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I grew up in New York, so for me, I spent a lot of time on a subway and sitting around, and it even what Nino was saying and Andy was saying, I even recall around, not that we were trying to be preachy, but I even recall around like 9/11, it wasn't about what race anyone was or any sort of identity. It was almost more so it's like, oh, we all live in America, or we're all New Yorkers, or there was a sense of kind of unity. And then just in terms of like the editing, I helped score it as well, and I felt like that helped in terms of the tone a lot, because at the beginning it was this low angle, one take pushing in, and kind of doing something that felt like it did have some gravitas, like a Fruitvale Station. And then once it starts to get into the moments of like, I'm not going to take for my people, or even the whole montage of like, if you like La La Land over here, if you like Moonlight over here, kind of making that feel more like Ocean's 11, or where you can feel the kind of playfulness to it, where you're seeing how kind of absurd this is to try to divide people in general. But yeah, I think balancing that kind of tone was definitely something that I went into in terms of the pacing and the structure of, like you were saying, when to pull out and allow it to breathe, whether it's a monologue or whether to allow the audience to know that it is something that does have a bit more tension. When you are stealing from somebody, even Jake's character, to me, like at the end, he just says, we're all one soul. When you harm another, you're really harming yourself. And I feel like that kind of wraps it all up there at the end. But yeah, I'm glad it resonates, and that was definitely the intention when going into it.
It certainly does. It certainly does. This is a question for the producers. So Patricia, Will, Hyun, how did all of you sort of see it in terms of, there's obviously this great balance as we're talking about, but it also is making a short film is just as labor intensive, and just as stressful as making a feature. This film, they recreated, Nino and the team recreated an actual subway car. I would swear that it's an actual subway car. It's beautifully done with the lights going through. It does not feel at all like it's a set. Let's kind of talk about the production aspect of it, and how making it happen was sort of had its challenges and rewards. Patricia, we can start with you.
Well, that's a question more for Hyun, who was the producer on set. He can answer the question about that. But for me, regarding about the subject matter, it was very important to support it from the beginning until the end as one of the producers. I'm Canadian and Salvadorian, and I felt this story, and I'm based in LA. I felt this story is universal. It just doesn't apply to one nation or another. It really transcends culture. It transcends um, politics or any of the identities portrayed in the film. So that's how I got involved and supported it.
Yeah,
Keon.
yeah, it's very human.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah.
As you said, I completely agree with you, Joe. It is always hard to produce anything that comes with movies. And the thing I liked and about this was that the whole crew made it my job so much easier. It's having that diversity with not only the cast, but also having that diversity in the crew and knowing that they're talented and knowing that they're going to bring it. It was just, it's like you said, building that train. I was like, oh my gosh, how we're going to make this real. I lived in New York as well. I was so afraid. And then we just have other people that's just like, okay, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. And I'm just like, oh, well, that takes it off my hands, and it just lifted a load. So working on this was just so great and so fun because I just had those people to bounce it off of.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the tones and the comedy and the serious ideas in the script. When you first read it, I just love saying the dichotomy. So I'm going to say a dog or cat, dualism versus nihilism, Starbucks, NASCAR, Moonlight, La La Land. It's that kind of thing that's like, that moment right there is, you really remember so much of the film, but you walk away saying, you're telling all your friends, you need to see this because it really cuts up to a lot of different ideas that makes us all human, and it's really hilariously funny. What were your thoughts as you read the script and were putting it together, Will?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely thought it was an intellectual approach to satire. I thought it created a great discussion that illustrated multiple perspectives versus, a one-sided message that's trying to be shoved down your throat. So I was very excited to get into the project in that regard. And once we saw the script, I knew it would be easy to raise money for. And, ever since the festival run has started, it's been amazing watching it, pick up the accolades and we think we deserve, and moving forward, and just watching the project pick up a lot of momentum, which is a huge credit to the team and the collaborative effort everyone has put in.
Yeah. Andy, any writer will say the details, the important stuff is the editing, and obviously Jordan will agree to that, but it's sometimes it's what you leave out, what you decide to take out is just as crucial as what you decide to leave in. And I would imagine in a short film that's even more important, kind of making sure that every second is used for its purpose, right? That every idea is in there, because you don't want to have too much spillover, and you've got a very short amount of time to tell your story. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they actually edited out the water balloon fight that was 2 hours long. I don't know why. But no, I think one of the things that amazed me about it was that if you think about it, if you actually read the script but alone, you would say, is this a play? It's almost like that, right? It takes place in one location, and it's the dialogue. It's very dialogue driven. But what they Nino and Jordan and everybody was able to do, the way they put that together into a film, it essentially wasn't a film until they touched it, and then it became a film. And they didn't. I don't remember Nino, but I think it pretty much followed the script. I think there was a couple of add-ins on the day, but it pretty much followed the script, and that's really rewarding as a writer, because I've certainly had lots of things edited out in my life.
We edited out some stuff that we lost. I felt that was the stuff that we had added on later on that wasn't true to to the original script, and sometimes that happens in collaboration. But I was adamant, from the beginning, that we wanted to make an award-winning film, so we wanted to take an award-winning script, which we did. And then when we added to that later on, I'm like, let's keep what is good. And I felt that the flow was good. So there's some stuff like that felt a little preachy and more, like I said, soapboxy, that we're trying to really avoid. Because honestly, it's the the beauty of this to me, and always was, and I am actually on the same page with Andy on this. It's like, this is what it is, right? So however you can look subjectively at it, you'll come away with that message, whatever it means to you. And I do think it stands the test of time, and that's ultimately what we wanted to do. So, keeping that message the same, but we didn't edit too much out of it, though.
Yeah.
And
Jordan, how
the
much was
beauty about this, if I may add, the beauty about this is that it has become also a conversation trigger, this short, at film festivals during Q&As. I was, before the pandemic started, I was at the festival, and it was in front of a field theater of students, high school students. So it has become also an educational tool, something that will expand consciousness about those topics. And what I believe is that the audience member really comes down to their own conclusion. We are not we're not biased, putting anybody in one side or another. They make that choice by themselves. And that's the beauty about a project like this.
Yeah, Hyun, Will, that's a great, let's launch off from that. Have the two of you kind of heard conversations as well at film festivals, or just watching as audiences talk about it afterwards and kind of chew on the ideas?
Oh, absolutely. I went to Parsons in New York before moving to LA to work on many things, and happily this film. And I reached out to everyone there because I was like, okay, you all need to see this. It's so relevant, and it's so, like, things like this happen. And it's unfortunate, but things like this happen in New York. And after talking to so many people in New York, they were like, yeah. And like, they were like, yeah, like it's like nothing else could be said. It's just like, yeah, we could see that happening. And like, and they just love to talk about the complexities of it. And that was my favorite part, is they talked about how, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I would go over here, but then I would look at the person and be like, I didn't know you were a cat person, or I didn't know you were a dog person, or I didn't know you did this, and it was just so fantastic to hear that narrative, that they, within realizing something about someone else, they were also realizing things about them.
That's right. Yeah, that's beautifully said. That's right. Will, how about you in terms of conversations you've heard, or just the dynamics of the film kind of reaching audiences?
Yeah, so I actually went to high school in Santa Barbara, where we premiered at SBIFF, and just hearing some of the feedback from that community was really cool for me personally, but also just on a more macro level, just sharing it with other people in the industry. It's, I've never been a project that has gotten this much positive feedback, and it's just been such a joy to be a part of.
Yeah. Jordan, let's talk about what was the most satisfying, I'm sure the whole thing obviously was, but the most satisfying section to edit, because there's, the parts that we were just talking about dog versus cat, Moonlight versus La La Land, there's the wipes that are going through, there's lots of different styles kind of going on. What was kind of the most challenging or most rewarding section of it to kind of really kind of chew into and edit?
Yeah, the montage was fun, just because like you can obviously, the cutaways and the pacing and all of that, it felt very musical, and comedy in general is very, there's a rhythm to it. I think that's why the jokes land, is because you give enough like breathing time for either the punchline or to hold on people's faces or the monologues. To me too, those two monologues that Adam and Daystorm delivered, I think, like, score wise, we knew we wanted to like allow the audience to know that although what they're saying is humorous to the people on the train, because they're like, where is this coming from, but there's a lot of truth within the monologues as well. So to kind of balance that tone, to like it's almost a step aside, adding in the sound design of like the whoosh once it ends, almost like the cricket type effect, where all the train members are looking around, and then, excuse my French, but then he goes, you know what I mean, motherfucker, just to like bring it all back, be like, okay, we're still robbing a train right now. Right. Yeah, like and then that callback again when Adam kind of does the same thing, doesn't want to really robbed these people, and he feels bad about it, and he kind of delivers this monologue saying, you know, like, taking from them hurts me, like we're all the same in here. And then kind of looks around and goes, you know what I mean? And like that same callback. Yeah, playing with that and allow, like, on the day we did it in a one take, so that way you can really like listen and feel what the character is saying, but then also having the score, and when the score comes at then fades away again, so you feel like you're back on the train. I think all of those moments were fun because, like you said, it makes you feel like you aren't in one location, that it feels like you're in a whole world, which is ultimately, I guess, what a subway is. It's like a big melting pot of everyone and everything. So, yeah.
Yep. Every 3-minute ride is a whole nother, is a little world into itself, is a one act play in so many ways.
Yeah.
To wrap up, Nino, let's kind of riff off a little bit of what Jordan was just saying, because this is a big short film, to coin a phrase. I think there's a lot in it, in its 10 minutes, 10 and a half minutes. But it's also made up of such great and graceful small moments. And I'm thinking of almost the, you know, when Adam and Jay kind of look at each other and they kind of point to their heads, and there's sort of this like level of another understanding or confusion or antagonism that's going on there. And I feel like this is also, it's made up of all those small moments and those close-ups and bits of business that are, that speak volumes, even though they're kind of tiny little character bits, right?
Right. I mean, 100%. I think, you know, the way I look at my worldview essentially is everything follows a pattern, right? So the macro is the micro, and the intention and the obstacle of the entire piece is the same with every single moment, right? So what is the intention? Rob. And what is the obstacle? Us. And you just play on that. And I think when you get actors that are on board with that, and they were so prepared that we could do everything else, it sort of just had the natural, you know, chemistry essentially that they had. That's all I can really hope for ultimately, is just, does the thing work? Does everything work? Can it all come together as a cohesive unit? And ultimately, do we get the message home? And I thought that we did. And again, it's for a short film to do anything, like you said, there's no such thing as a big one. I mean, short films for me are very hard because it's hard to get what I consider to be a professional group to do it, because typically, you know, a lot of short films, in my experience, they're either like a student film, or there's something where everyone's like 26 years old and it kind of looks not really great and there's really no depth or anything. I'm like, this is the perfect actual short film that if we can somehow pull everyone together, this would be really cool. And that happened in our whole, between the passengers on the train, between every single person that worked on that. I mean, we had basically like, there's, I think 80 people there, 60 to 80 people that when we were shooting that, to put this thing together, which is incredible for a short film, in my opinion. So that was honestly the most gratifying thing, is that the heart of the movie was actually the process of making it.
Yeah. I was thinking of big, and just you walk away from it with just as many ideas and as much enthusiasm to tell people about it as you would, you know, a 3-hour epic. I feel like you walk away from it really getting a lot out of it, both ideas and laughs. It's beautifully edited, beautifully written, beautifully scored, fantastically acted. It's so terrific. Congratulations to all of you. Thanks so much for being here. This is for the short film Tribes, director Nino Aldi, writer Andy Marlett, producer and co-editor Jordan Taylor Wright, and producers Patricia Chica, Will Meldman, and Heon Green. Thanks all, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having us. Appreciate it.